Hello and welcome to this Arsenal BiteSize Podcast special. Breaking news. We've just seen Fabrizio Romano tweet out that Gabriel Jesus has undergone his successful knee surgery on his knee, and the rehabilitation program has begun as per the official comms from Arsenal. So, hot off the press, been a lot of speculation about how long Jesus could be out for. And I guess today we're here for a quick snap 30-minute episode to just look at Arsenal's options going into the next few months without Gabriel Jesus as he recovers and any impact that might have on our FPL teams and decisions as well. So I'm, of course, FPL Nima, and I'm joined by Clayton. It's good to be here again for another Arsenal episode during the World Cup, which I'm sure there'll be no doubt some comments on at some point as well, with the Spain-Morocco game still ongoing if you want to timestamp this and you're listening back on podcast. So yeah, how are you, Clayton, despite obviously the horrible news about our star striker?
Yeah, not great. I feel like I'm in the same. I've got the same injury as Jesus. I've just not had my surgery. So yeah, I'm gonna slide in his DM, see if we can do our rehab together. But yeah, obviously it's gutting news, really, isn't it? Yeah, it felt like it was a mixed bag over the last few days, where like you heard about the knee injury. You then heard, it's not going to be long. It'll be a month. He'll be back for potentially Newcastle. And then there was the 3 months talk. And now, like you said, it's been confirmed. He's had his surgery and the rehab starts now. So not great news, obviously, but obviously the purpose of this pod is to kind of discuss the severity of it, what we think the impact will be, and then potential solutions, right? I think a lot of people we've seen people saying, we need to go buy a striker. We've seen people say Nketiah will be the man. So I think it would just be good to kind of give our opinions on that and see what the people listening think as well.
Yeah, I'll be interested to hear what the live viewers think as well. So shout
And for
out to
what
Mike
it's,
Halpin. I'll just give a
yeah, nice
quick
one.
couple shout outs. So good to see you, Mike, and also Blue Danube guy, Joe. Good to see you as well. So it's nice to have a few of you in live on this
Yeah,
quick,
cheers, guys.
spontaneous episode.
And for what it's worth, obviously you and I haven't even discussed, like we spoke about the news, but we've not discussed like our preferred solutions or anything as well. So it'd be good to see what that's like.
Yeah, I think that's the best part for me as well, is just this idea that we've not really had any plans. So we might both have completely different views about what the right solution is. And I know that on the next part of the screen, which I'll go to now, there's a few different options or solutions written down. So I think maybe we work through these systematically and give both our opinions on them. If you want to
Yeah.
maybe start with the first one.
Yeah, sure. So, yeah, for those on the audio, we've got 4 different options here, and there may be more that we've just not considered, but these feel like the obvious ones in no particular order. Number 1 is stick with the plan, and I think to us the plan was always to kind of get a winger or a wide forward, and with option 1, sticking with the plan, signing a winger wide forward, it's obviously faith in Nketiah. It's potentially freeing up Martinelli to cover there as and when, potentially Smith Rowe falls 9. That's option 1, which we'll discuss. Option 2 is to go and buy a striker, which will weigh up. Option 3 is to get someone in on loan. Seen rumours of that we tried for João Felix. You never know if that's on the cards again. And then option 4 is recall Flo Balogun, who's doing so well in Ligue 1. So yeah, they're the 4 options we've kind of stuck on the slides at the minute. And if there's any glaringly obvious ones, obviously let us know. But yeah, should we go through one by one, see what we think?
Yeah, I think let's start with the first one because that's the one I would have gone with, I think, if it was just like the 2 games in December Jesus missed and it was just kind of 4 to 6 weeks out. But this might drastically change our plans with the window opening in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, and I think I will go through each one in a second, but what I think will happen is one of 2 things. I think we're either going to just, one of 3 things, sorry. I don't think we're going to recall Balogun. I think we're either going to get someone in on loan. I think if we buy someone, it's not going to be a little stopgap. I think if we get someone, it will be someone that is like a transformational centre forward. And then the thing is, you have to think Jesus isn't dead, right? He's going to come back. We still have to utilise him. We then have Nketiah, Jesus, and a top class centre forward. I think the plan, if we go and get someone of that top class level, is clearly the title challenge. One eye on that, but Jesus, when he comes back, kind of using him as a rotational option across the front 3, personally. And then the other one, I think, is, kind of sticking with the plan. I think they won't go and buy a centre forward. They'll buy a winger wide forward that can play across potentially, both flanks and then free up someone to cover Nketiah. But my preferred solution, I think it's Nketiah. I think I'm not saying he's the answer. I think we obviously lose so much with Jesus, but I think the one thing I've said all season with him is obviously he hasn't really impressed everyone, but it's so hard to demonstrate that in cameos and coming in to like a second string 11 in the Europa League and stuff. And we saw what he did last season, that the back end of last season, I think it was 5 goals and 8 starts. And obviously we lose an element of, Jesus has been transformational in the way he's just raised the attack and the things he does to open up space for Saka Martinelli. But what makes us so good as a team is our system. And we're going to do another episode in the future about like our tactics and the positional play. We were doing fantastic with Nketiah there last year. And I'd say in a worse team, like he can slot in and do a job. Obviously, we lose so much that Jesus brings in terms of pressing from the front, his ability on the ball in tight spaces. But what I think will happen is I think we'll sign a wide forward or a winger that can play on both flanks. And I think Nketiah will be like, he's been given a bumper contract, the number 14 shirt, and it's almost not about what we want, it's what we think we'll do. And I think Arteta has clearly got faith in him. And I think he's developed so much more to his game than people kind of give him credit for. I think, that's my personal opinion. And obviously, I would love for us to go and get a top level centre forward who can come in kind of. I put us at a title challenge at like 20-25%. I don't think it's the 0% everyone thinks, but obviously this naturally reduces that likelihood, right? I'd say that brings it down to like a 5%. If you go and get that top class centre forward, I think it keeps you at that playing field. But then you have to think, what do we do with Jesus? We're not a City where we can go flunk 100 million on someone and then have these huge players kind of sitting in the wings. I think that's where that needs to be weighed up. But that's what I think will happen. I think we'll get a winger and Nketiah will be given the chance to shine. And Martinelli will cover the odd game there. Smith Rowe will get the odd couple of minutes there. That's it. What about you?
Yeah, no, I think I'm going to rule out number 2 straight out the bat because I don't think we're going to buy a striker. Yeah, I just don't think we will. No, I think we already needed more ammunition in our front line. We needed another serious player to play on the wide forward positions. I think that plan doesn't change. I think that stays the same. I think why would we keep Eddie and put him on 100k a week if not to play as the backup striker in a situation like this? I appreciate that he's not done too much to impress this season, but at the tail end of last season when he played with the core first 11, he did great after a run of games. I remember he had the interview where he said, people are judging me on cameos off the bench, like 10, 15 minutes, trying to win a game in the last 5 minutes, starting with the B team, as you say, in the Europa this season. It's just not the same. I think we've discussed it on previous pods. I think having him slot into the existing strong team, that's going to have an impact. And I'd like to think that he can score a couple goals now in the preseason matches. What we're forgetting, he's out there in the warm weather training camp right now in Dubai. He's going to play 2 to 3 friendlies before the league kicks off again. He's like, they already know that he's going to start on Boxing Day against West Ham. So it's like it could be worse, right? Like we could be halfway through the season and we could have played today and we could have found out about Jesus' injury today. And then we'd have to change our entire system, game plan, prep everyone for Eddie instead of Jesus in that lineup with a few days' notice. We've now got the luxury of there's 20 days till that Premier League fixture kicks off. Eddie's, barely played all season, as we said. He's as fit as can be. Like, look at the forwards and strikers of all the other teams. They're going quite far in the tournament. Apart from Haaland sitting at home resting this whole time and recharging his battery, everyone else, they're also out there in the tournaments playing, right? Like they're getting heartbreak or they're going far. You've got the likes of, for Spurs, Kane and Richarlison have gone far. You've got, on our own side, we've got Saka and Martinelli. And I think that's something we should discuss here because this is why number 1's the main thing for me, because we already needed another winger and we're probably not going to see Saka and Martinelli start either in the first few games. So what's that front line going to be? Like if we don't get the wide forward, we could be going for a number of weeks with no one. Like it could be literally like Eddie, Vieira and Marquinhos up top against West Ham. Like that does not sound good to me.
That's a really
that's worrying.
That's
really worrying. Like
I think getting a winger was always part of the plan. Like what you and I said in the summer, we needed another one, right? So like, I think this doesn't change anything. And yeah, I would be surprised if we went and got an out and out number 9. I think the way we're building a squad and the positional play, like we're all about, we talk about it all the time, forgetting positions and the zones on the pitch. And I think for that, you've seen with the transfer strategy, right? It's all about versatility and like, can you get someone that can cover 2 or 3 different areas? And I think Jesus and Nketiah are completely different centre forwards, but Nketiah has got strengths that work in an Arsenal system. We saw that last season. Like I think people have short memories sometimes, and I've seen a lot of people shitting on him, and I understand it. Like we've not seen that level of consistency in him this year, but
I
give
think
him
partly it depends on what you're aiming for, right? So if you're aiming for a title challenge, like, yeah, no doubt. Like, you know, if Spurs lost Harry Kane or Liverpool lost Mo Salah, you know, in the seasons that they won the Premier League, for example, if they lost them for 3 months, they weren't going to win the Prem. So I think if you thought that we're going to win the Prem, then you're going to say Eddie is not going to take us to
well,
90
I'll
points.
take it. I don't disagree,
But what I mean is Eddie alone, like he can get us to 70-point marker. Like I believe top 4 is fine. Like I don't see what's happened with Jesus now as like a massive dent in our top 4 hopes or even top
no,
3. I just think that
it's
you
the
know
difference
if you
between a title
suddenly
challenge.
exactly if you now lose a few games, that's it, title challenge done. If you lose 2-3 games in a row, that's it. That we ain't coming back from that.
Yeah,
And I think that's
so
just a fact. So I think it depends what you thought we were going to do. So I think for someone like you or me, where we did think maybe a 90+ point season is possible the way we were going on the current run rate, this is alarming news. And like I still believe, end of the day, right, if they play Eddie and it does not work for a while, Edu and Arteta will also be questioned
oh
because they'll
yeah,
be like, you
yeah.
made this decision to keep him, not let him go, and not buy a different striker. So they clearly saw something in him and backed him, right, to be the
We
backup.
saw
It's
it.
like,
Like
this is the
we all
backup.
saw it. Like I'm not gonna lie. That for me at the end of the last season was not a purple patch. He has developed so much more to his game, and I used to look at him as just like a fox in the box, bit of a poacher. Like he was running the channels towards the back end of the last season. He was pressing from the front. We forget this. His combination play was improving, and I think I agree with what you're saying in terms of the title challenge. But what I'd say to that is how we have been winning points has been as a team. It's not been individual brilliance per se that's got us over the line and to where we are. And I think that's where 80% of our points accumulation is because of the system, the structure that works, right? And I think that provides a framework and a platform for the players on the pitch to absolutely thrive. And I think that's where 20% comes from individual brilliance. And it's like those tight games where you need a moment of magic. That's what Jesus has in his locker that Nketiah probably doesn't. But to your point earlier, and like that's the difference between the title challenge and the top 4. West Ham, Brighton, Newcastle, Man United, Tottenham, they were all going to be tough games anyway. I don't think that's suddenly becomes impossible to accumulate similar points that we were expecting before anyway. I
It might
genuinely
just have
don't.
to be done in a different way. So I think one thing I will say is
Exactly.
last season, we didn't get the ball up the pitch much. We struggled to create. And we just said that we both used to believe that Eddie's main strength was that kind of fox in the box, 6-yard goals. I think, and I believe you think the same, that he has developed a more well-rounded game. His hold-up play is pretty good. He can press. I think his link up with Saka is brilliant, actually. And with that in mind, surely it's a good thing that this season we've been so much higher up the pitch, right? Like we've been playing with the highest defensive line in the league. That should mean that the ball should fall to, Eddie in positions that he's more likely to score. So I think there is one thing to be said. So Jesus probably gained us some of those yards on the pitch. So maybe our defensive line will be a bit further back because we won't have Jesus pressing. We won't have Jesus pressing.
And
Like
Nketiah is
Eddie will
very good at
press.
press. Yeah.
But no, he is good, but I just don't think he will do it the same, like the 100% level of Jesus. So it might be
I
a
don't
little bit
know.
further back.
I think
But
obviously,
overall, we're going to be
yeah.
further up the pitch, is what I'm saying. So even if Eddie can only do, let's say, 50% of what Jesus is doing, as a structure and system, we're going to play further forward regardless. So it's like, even if we lose a little bit of a few yards of how far up we are, overall, I believe we should be higher up anyway.
Yeah.
And that's going to play into Eddie's. Now, what I don't understand, right? And this is maybe just more of a Twitter thing, but I've just spent months dealing with grief and flack from people about, Gabriel Jesus only has 5 goals
Yeah,
and he's shit for Arsenal. Soon as he's injured, they're now saying you're going to finish in eighth and below United.
yeah, I
So,
know.
you can't have it both ways. So, like, either you don't believe that he scores enough goals and contributes nothing to Arsenal, which is what they were implying for a while, or you believe that the space he makes for our wingers, the space he creates for the rest of the team, everything else he does is absolutely pivotal to the way we play today. Now, I think Eddie can do a lot of those things, but he might not be able to do some of the finesse that you were talking about, like the kind of winning the game by himself. Like, he might not be
Like
able
the
to do that.
Leicester goal where like you shift your foot and dink it over the keeper, stuff like that, of course. But Nketiah brought that chaos factor that we had missed for so long at Arsenal. Remember, like, was it Leeds last year, the home game? He scored by pressing the keeper, forcing a mistake.
Mhm.
The Chelsea away game, like, different players have different strengths, and I think like he will do better than people think, in my opinion. Obviously, he's no Jesus, but he has got his own strengths and his own merit, in my opinion.
I think
Um,
psychology plays a big part as well. And what I think we're all underestimating that in his head, if he's not excited at the prospect of leading the front line for an Arsenal that's top of the Premier League, while he has basically a mini preseason to prep and have the rest of the squad around him play to his strengths, then like I don't think he would have signed that extension. He said
nah,
he wanted to play more games, right? This is his chance. Like, obviously, he's not happy that Jesus is injured. There's a camaraderie in the squad. But this is as good a chance as it gets for him to make his name well known beyond just the
yeah,
Arsenal circles.
and
So I
that's
think
why.
he's going to be coming in very ready and raring to go. And I think people are quick to dismiss him. Um, but just before we carry on, I just want to add to this point. So I think it
Yeah,
is number one mainly. I don't think
yeah,
we'll buy a striker. I do think we might loan another forward player, whether that's a
I think so.
striker, a false nine, someone who can play false
Just
nine and a
a
winger.
competent body in, right?
Yeah, because we needed more anyway. And if we're saying Saka and Martinelli may not even be back in time to start the Premier League restart because of how far Brazil and England may go, then the reality is we're going to need both Eddie to start and a winger that we buy, like a
Well, right
Modric
now it would
and
be
someone else.
Yeah, right now it would be Marquinhos and Nketiah and Nelson, right? Like
Yeah.
we, yeah, we we need more than that. So
And I'm just going to kill off number 4 as an option completely.
yeah,
So I think I've seen a lot of people talk about, just like sell Eddie, recall Balogun. I
people
think
are
that
playing
is wild.
FIFA career mode, isn't it? Like it's
Yeah, it's actually
ridiculous.
wild. So I think Balogun has played one Premier League game for us at the start of last
Yeah,
season
it was
against
against
Brentford.
Brentford. Yeah,
Like, you've got a guy who was told by Arteta you should go and play a whole season every week in a men's dressing room and learn about, like, grow up and become a man. He's then said he's glad he did so far because it's really changed the way he sees football and he's growing as a person and as a player. And what are we going to do? What, take him away from his developmental season away to bring him back when he's had one Premier League start for Arsenal in his career and get him to lead the line, not the guy on 100K a week who's the number 14 back. So I just think I'm going to completely dismiss number 4
yeah,
because
me
I think
too.
the people pushing for that, they're underestimating the damage it will do to Balogun's career development long term. And
I
as
think
you
it's a
say,
very
Jesus will be back
God,
eventually. So,
yeah,
like, what's going to happen then? Then it's going to be Jesus, Eddie, and Balogun just never playing again when he
yeah,
could have
mate.
carried on playing.
I have faith in Nketiah. My preference is number one. Like, I wouldn't be mad if we went and got an out and out number 9 because I think you can never have enough good options, but I don't think we will. I have faith in Nketiah. I think he'll do better than people are giving him credit and hope for. And he will be in my FPL team. Like, I've not really looked at other options, but I think he'll do well. I think
I'm pretty keen
we,
to start with him too. Yeah.
yeah, we are a very good team. Like, keyword there, we're a very good team. Like, someone like Party, Jesus, God forbid if he's ever injured, because that is where the system
The
is pinned on
spine
him.
starts to get really
Yeah, but like,
problematic with him out. Yeah.
people won't like me saying this. Jesus is not our system. He's got so many qualities that elevate the attack and elevates the defense in a weird way because of everything you've said, but he is not the system. Someone like Party is the system.
Yeah.
Our number
Party,
9,
Saliba, these guys that would destroy
even
our team.
even Saliba, he's not the full system. Like, I think there are
Hmm.
areas of the pitch that can be replicated, not replicated, they can be replaced in different ways. I think the number 6 in our system, we've seen, we cannot replace it. The number 9 can be tweaked. You can have different attributes there that achieve a similar goal. I'm confident in that. And yeah, I think
I
that's
think
what's
just
going to
one other
happen.
thing to say. I think because there will be cup games as well, there'll be FA Cup in February.
That's
Obviously,
the big
Europa will
issue.
start. So
Good
that's why
shout.
I'm saying we need to buy the permanent winger and loan another attacker because we're gonna need these bodies regardless as if we go deep in everything.
Yeah, that's a
But
great shout. I completely forgot that. Yeah.
yeah, because that's going to play a big part, right? There's the Carabao Cup. That's actually the week before the Premier League season starts. Thank God we're out of that, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And
That
then
would have been like a whole week earlier than the Premier League and having to
I
like get
know.
a team out for that. FA Cup, I'd like to think we don't get knocked out first round again. So fingers crossed against the opponents there. In terms of the other thing I was going to say, I think if the Eddie at centre forward doesn't quite work out the way we're wanting, I think Arteta will be quick to fine tune it. I think
Yeah.
once Martinelli's back up to speed, he's talked of playing centre forward himself before. I think there will be games where we might start him as a centre forward just against certain opponents if we want to go for a different tactical play. Smith Rowe being back is massive as well, actually. So actually, when
Huge.
I was talking about the
Yeah.
front line on that first day, if we didn't buy anyone, it could actually be like Smith Rowe on the left wing, Eddie up top, and one of Nelson or Marquinhos on the right. So I think Smith Rowe being back is huge. I think Smith Rowe and Odegaard can both play a false nine. You know, we've been watching Spain in this World Cup tournament. They've not played with an out-of-out striker all tournament, pretty much. I know they have Alvaro Morata. He's not been starting the games. He's been generally coming on as a sub.
Yeah.
And, you know, they put 7 goals past the team the other day, Costa Rica. So, and they don't even play well forward. A lot of the modern teams, you know, Pep's own team that won the league for many years, he didn't play with a traditional centre forward for a long time. There was times when De Bruyne was the false nine, Foden was the false nine, Grealish was the false nine last season. You know, Jesus was on the wing as we knew. So I'm not too kind of worried. I think I trust in Arteta's tactical abilities
Me
to
too.
fine tune quickly if if the Eddie up top move doesn't work out the way he's hoping. But
Yeah.
I also back in Eddie's psychology to want to go and prove himself to all the doubters with the time he has to prep now, and he has
Yeah.
weeks of notice rather than finding out 5 days before.
Yeah. I think one more thing for me to add on the kind of going for a winger. I said this before. I look at the attack as a group, and there's 3 positions. And I always like the idea of us having 5 good quality options. And it's like it's been Martinelli, Jesus, Saka, and obviously Smith Rowe has been injured. It's been like Nelson, Marquinhos, right? Like, sorry, Nketiah as well. I've obviously missed him, but the idea that we can have 5 quality options that can cover the 3, because Jesus is our striker, but my God, him and Martinelli rotate so often. They're not fixated in
They
positions. I think it,
interchange very well. I think
yeah,
that's kind of what worries me about the West Ham game is it's not just Jesus that's going to be out. Martinelli, who's been playing so well with him up there, is also probably going to go far with Brazil, and I don't see him coming back a
yeah,
week later
but
from the
it's like,
final.
no, and it's how I spoke about the midfield, like where I wanted a Tielemans. It wasn't to replace, well, at the time it was to replace Xhaka, and I was wrong on that, but it was more to kind of add to Xhaka and kind of as a group looking at Partey, Odegaard, Tielemans, Xhaka, like giving yourself different qualities and attributes to control different game states. And that's what I want in the attack as well. I want 5 attackers across 3 positions that complement each other nicely. And I think Nketiah has got attributes that complement that attacking group very, very well. I genuinely believe that, and I hope he grabs it with 2 hands, and I hope he proves a lot of people wrong. But
Yeah, I think if he can get
obviously,
off to a
yeah,
fast start and get like a brace against West Ham, he'll already have 2 out of the 5 goals Jesus does, right, in one game.
yeah,
So, you know, he can catch up that goal tally by the time Jesus is back if he plays his cards right.
yeah. Let's see, but yeah, I think obviously it's a big loss. Not I'm conscious. I probably sound like, oh, it's fine, and Nketiah's going to go lead us to 14th title. Like, I'm not saying that. I just think not everything is as doom and gloom, and not everything is as like A and B, black and white. I think that systems are flexible. Systems are a framework to give a platform to people to go and impose their thing. And you don't have to have like for like replacements all over the pitch. The only place I think you do in our system is the number 6, personally.
100%. And I think on that note, we're probably still also going to go for a midfielder. If the plan changes, I could see us not getting the midfielder and getting a forward permanently, but I just think we're going to get the midfielder and not the forward, and maybe loan someone like we did with Odegaard when he first joined. There are lots of good opportunities out there for a loan to get us over the line. Just addressing some of the comments as well in the live chat before we go to the FPL implications. So obviously Mike Halpin had said it was devastating news about Jesus. He wasn't sure if we can trust Eddie for such a long period of time. He also agreed on the idea of sticking with the plan, buying a wide forward, maybe loaning a striker. Blue Danube jokes about getting Mudryk. And then Mike was saying no one can replicate what Jesus does, so the team will have to tweak to Eddie's strengths, which is a little bit of what we've been discussing. Tough fixtures for Arsenal after the World Cup break, have to bring in quality players. Yes, I think if we want to maintain any kind of title challenge, we do have to bring in quality players.
Yeah.
And I think the main final point from Mike was around just the bright side that at least Eddie has this Dubai break to get in the groove, knowing he's going to start on that first day back.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of the key talking points. So I guess FPL, you mentioned you may start the restart with Nketiah. He's obviously a 6.5 million forward, 0.4% owned at this point in time for any podcast listeners who can't see the screenshot. We've talked about West Ham at home on Boxing Day. We've got Brighton away on New Year's Eve. 3rd of Jan, we have Newcastle home. And then it starts to get even more difficult. We have Tottenham away on the 15th of Jan after the FA Cup break. We have United at home on the 22nd. And then we have Everton away on the
It's a tough run.
of Feb.
For me, that the end of that run will tell us everything about what Arsenal will potentially achieve or what's realistic this season. But yeah, I've not really done. I think why it was good to bring up FPL is like I saw a lot of talk on Arsenal Twitter about is Nketiah the man to fill Jesus' boots, and I saw a lot of chat on FPL Twitter about is Nketiah an FPL option. So I thought it was quite nice to kind of tick off 2 segments, and then obviously we'll whack it in the timestamp.
So we can only have 3 Arsenal players, right? And I still think there's enough value in our defense that I want Ben White or someone in that defensive line. I don't think I'd go for the goalkeeper. I'm pretty sure it would be Ben White or Saliba or Gabriel, one of those guys. That then leaves 2 positions. For most of us, Martinelli has been a perma-lock in our team. The question is, are we willing to start with him,
so can I
knowing that he might not play?
£6.5 million for the Arsenal number 9. Like, Jesus stylistically hasn't been the goal scorer for us. And Nketiah is a goal scorer. Like, for me, if he gets the shirt, which I think he will, this makes his FPL prospects rocket. Like, for me, he becomes one of the biggest bargains. And I get the fixtures. I understand the fixtures there are difficult. But, you know, people talk about optimal approach and stuff, right? Is it optimal to have Arsenal attackers like be doubled up, tripled up for prolonged periods of time with tough fixtures? Probably not. But people were saying that when we were playing Tottenham, Liverpool, we put 3 goals past both of them. Like, I think Arsenal are becoming a fixture-proof team. I genuinely think people are quite slow in changing their beliefs and narratives. We are a 2xG team, almost. We produce chances for fun. We create so much. And I know Jesus is imperative to that. I'm not downplaying that. But we're not going to become a bad team overall. Like, you know, I spoke about the 80% being the system and all of that, 20% individual brilliance. Our system is elite. It is so good, and there will be chances for Nketiah. And I think for me, he is someone that he is more of an out-and-out number 9 goal scorer than Jesus. I think Jesus contributes so much all over the attacking final third, whereas Nketiah will be a bit more, I think, just kind of tasked with scoring the goals. And I think it kind of worsens the prospect of like Saka, for example, in terms of his goal.
That's what I was going to ask. Yeah, because from my point of view, I think he'll be much more selfish than Jesus, and he will go for goal himself. And times where Jesus may have given an assist to one of Martinelli or Saka, I have a feeling Eddie might just have like a bull when they see the red flag that the Matador is waving. I think he might just zone in on the goal. So on that note, that's kind of what you want from an FPL asset, someone quite selfish in terms of goal scoring. At that price, playing for the team that's currently top of the league, I can't see myself not starting with him. I guess my worry then is if I've got, let's say, Ben White and Eddie Nketiah, that is one Arsenal slot. And I think it still has to be Martinelli, over Saka for me. I think at this point, what I'm saying is I would rather buy Eddie for 6.5 than Saka for 8 in midfield.
Yeah.
The problem
you
with
need
Martinelli
to look at
is
wider structure and stuff. But
I think the wider problem for me is that I think it's a kind of wait and see as well. Because I think whatever you go with, you need to watch a few games and see what impact Eddie playing has. Is it that now actually Martinelli or Saka is actually a really good option because maybe we're wrong and maybe he brings out the best in them? Is it that he completely dries up their opportunities to score and really you want to have Eddie as the main man there? So I think we need to watch the first few games, the West Ham, Brighton, Newcastle game. That's like 3 games in almost just over a week. That's 3
Yeah,
matches in quick succession, right? So I
and
think
they're
in
tough
that
games,
period,
but
they're tough
yeah,
games. But if he's starting to look good in the first few games, my God, will the casuals be buying him in their
that
masses? He scores 1 goal in that West Ham game.
yeah, exactly.
You'll have 500,000 transfers into the next game
And
week.
they're tough games, but I stand by this Arsenal team is capable of scoring against anyone. Like genuinely, I really believe that. And there's something you said previously, right? Where I think it was against Chelsea, and you were talking about Jesus, like all of the work he does, and he went on some mad dribble. And you were talking, I can't remember what you said. It was something about like, does he have like slight mental fatigue by the time
Yeah,
he
because
gets
like
to
that
taking the shot?
1%, yeah, that 1% of
Je-
because he spends so much time doing everything else.
Yeah, and Ketia will get involved in link play and he'll run the channel. He will not be dropping so deep that Jesus does. He will be playing like 5-6 yards higher up than Jesus does on an average position. He will be there to kind of press from the front, combine with the wide forwards. He will not be dropping deep to pick up the ball and drive forward like Jesus does. And he, yeah, just naturally being like it's quite lazy, but it's true by being that higher up as your starting average position, he will be closer to goal. He will be in and around the box, and he will, yeah, I think, just be tasked with bloody scoring. And I think it changes the roles of the likes of Saka and Martinelli around him, personally.
I think I can see a world in which if the money doesn't matter and you can sell Martinelli and still buy him back for a bit more expensive of a price than what you will sell him for. Because I think if you got him at the start when he was like 6 million, you can maybe sell him for 6.4, 6.5 now, but you have
Yeah,
to buy him back for like 6.8, 6.9. If you are willing to soak up that 0.3, 0.4 because you see value in having someone for 2 game weeks that you think will score a lot, and then buy him when you know he's fully back into the starting lineup. I think that is an option there. I think most people won't take that just because of how great he's been. But that is
yeah,
an option that can exist for some people. I think the alternative is what Blue Danube Joe has said, which is quite interesting, which is just to have 2 players. And that would be,
yeah,
like maybe Martinelli and a defender. And you kind of wait and see what Eddie's impact is to the rest of our assets. And is the impact that Eddie's the guy to go for, or is the impact that there's someone else you want to go for? Because let's say Smith Rowe starts and he starts off hot, you might want to get to Smith Rowe. And if you've got Eddie
yeah,
up top, that's 2 moves because now you're going to have to downgrade Eddie. You don't want to sell Martinelli, maybe. So you're going to have to then upgrade someone to get to Smith
that's true.
Rowe. So I think there is also the opportunity that maybe with just the likes of Saka and Martinelli going far, Jesus out, let's see where Xhaka goes. Because if Xhaka gets through tonight to the quarterfinals as well, he's going to potentially not be back straight away either. So if a lot of the team look like they're not going to be there for the
Yeah,
first
of
week,
course, that
maybe you
changes
go
things.
with 2 of them, yeah, and you kind of
Yeah,
you wait to see what the impact is of when they start to put the
yeah.
jigsaw back together again.
I think it's more, yeah, definitely. I think it's more like the simplistic point is if you think, and I think Nketiah will get the shirt. Obviously, if we sign someone, we'll know about that mid-Jan, like after the tough fixtures and stuff. But I think Nketiah will have the shirt to start, and I think Arsenal, if most people are fit, are a fantastic team, and we will score goals against most teams. And I want a slice of that attack because,
So you're
yeah,
trying to get in early, yeah. So I think that's the thing. If you want to take the
I've not
gamble,
looked at other fixtures and stuff to know who's got the best
yeah,
at the
because I
start.
guess
But
the
yeah,
question would be who would he be replacing? And for most people, obviously they'll
like
keep
a
Haaland.
Mitrovic.
So it would probably be Mitrovic. You could see teams with Haaland, Mitrovic, and Eddie, but then obviously in those scenarios, Eddie would be replacing maybe Callum Wilson, or I'm trying to think who
Yeah,
else he could be replacing.
like a Tony, well, if he's
Tony,
not
Solanke,
suspended.
these guys, yeah. So
Yeah,
I think there's definitely an opportunity, and I may do a draft team with him in it and just see what it looks like because the other option is a lot of people will want Haaland, Kane, and Mitrovic. And in
yeah.
those scenarios, then Eddie is a direct replacement for Mitrovic. And that's where it becomes more complicated. Again, if England go far, like Kane is not going to start the first few games; he's going
I
to be
just think
knackered. So
6.5 million for a striker starting in the team top of the league, who are a very good attack. Like sometimes I think simple is easy.
So in terms of questions, there was one question I had from earlier, which I'll quickly read out. It was mainly about like when did we think Jesus would be back? Obviously, at the
What
time.
is the diagnosis of the rehab?
Yeah, so that's the thing. So at the moment, the latest I've seen is that Arsenal are not putting any time frame on his possible return yet. They say it's too early to speculate. So that's Arsenal's official position. There is a guy on Twitter. He's a great Arsenal account. He's also a doctor. He's called at Free CB Performance. It's Dr. Rajpal Bra.
Oh, he's
And
great. I know who that. Yeah.
yeah, so he's great, and he tweets a lot about Arsenal and injuries in general. And he says that typically is 10 to 12 week return timeline coming off of MCL, medial collateral ligament surgery.
That's what
Good
I've
news
done.
is, yes,
That's my
that's the
MCL
same
that I've
kind of
done.
time
Yeah.
frame, exactly. Yeah, so he says good news is the ligament heals quite well due to robust blood supply. Timeline to be determined depending on surgery and response to physio. So we know he's had the successful surgery now. We know the physio and rehab is beginning. I think what's really crazy is Xhaka had the same surgery, I believe, and he was back in 60 to 70 days. Now, I think Xhaka's just
He's
built
a
different when
machine,
it
though,
comes to,
right?
yeah, when it comes to recovering from injuries and surgeries. I
He's
think
so
Xhaka's something else.
robust.
So, yeah, I'm not sure if Jesus can like do that, but I guess what everyone's getting at is like 3 months is like it's almost like it could be up to 3 months.
Yeah.
It's like no one knows yet, and all of it will be determined mainly by how he responds to physio in the next few weeks. If he's
Yeah.
responding well in the next few weeks and everything's healing properly after the surgery, then I think we might, at a push, it is maybe a bit of a push, but maybe we can have our fingers crossed he'll be back by mid-Feb for that match against Man City. That's how long is that from now? That's 4 weeks to the 6th of Jan, another 4 weeks to the 6th of Feb, add another 10 days to there to the mid-Feb. That's 8 weeks plus 10 days. It's about 9 to 10 weeks. That's like the optimistic scenario. I think that's the most optimistic scenario, that he somehow is ready to even come off the bench against City. The worst case scenario is that he won't be back till March or mid-March or even later. And that is a scary fucking prospect.
Yeah. I think a lot of what happens in the transfer window will probably be dictated by his initial response to this surgery in the next 4 or 5 weeks, and sort of forecasting his return then. Because there is whether people think it's a huge chance or not, that there is a title chance there, right? And I think that probably his response to the surgery dictate what Arsenal do in the transfer market. But yeah,
Just to timestamp this as we wrap up and say bye. I'm just looking in the background at Morocco's penalties against Spain, and Morocco have knocked Spain out the World Cup. Yeah, Morocco have knocked Spain out the World Cup. Yep, I see Hakim Ziyech, I see Hakimi, I see them going absolutely mental with the subs, the bench, the fans. Spain are out. That's it. They're out.
Shit. Fucking hell.
What a great!
Well,
I was thinking, yeah, I was just thinking like there's not been any last 16 upsets. I was quite frustrated by that, but I'm not sure that really helps Arsenal though, because are there any fucking Spanish internationals that can come back early for training?
I'll give you 5 minutes until we're linked with Morata.
Yeah, man. Him, Asensio, all of them. Just fucking send them over. Maybe if Portugal get knocked out later, Joao Felix can hurry up and get on his plane as well for that loan. But this is a big moment for Morocco. I think they have played fantastic football all tournament.
They've been brilliant. Yeah, I've loved watching them. They're so good.
They're honestly amazing. Morocco is actually one of my sweepstake teams.
Is it? Nice.
I don't know how. It's actually crazy.
On you at the next Arsenal game then.
I'm just having a look. Morocco haven't really conceded many goals, like any proper real goals this tournament, man.
I'm doing well. Well, on that note, let's go bloody watch the end of that. But
let's go see the celebration. But yeah, it's been good catching up, and we'll see you when you're back from your trip to Goa, obviously. And just to let the listeners know that we're gonna do the preview episode for West Ham in the lead in the week just before Christmas, and then we'll go back to the usual kind of review and preview of each Premier League game, and you'll be back in January onwards. So we may have a couple guests who come and support on the next preview and review, but you'll be back soon enough, and enjoy your break, Clayton.
Yeah, thanks, man. Yeah, catch you all soon.
Nice one. See everyone soon. Up the Arsenal. See you guys later.